How's it, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of Ola Pono, or as we like to translate it, to live well. Today I decided to interview my old teacher, Dr. Thao. She is one of the faculty here at Mānoa. She's gone to school over at UC Berkeley, UC Davis, where she ultimately got her PhD in psychology. And I ran into Dr. Lei a couple years ago at my last semester of Mānoa, and I took her class, which was Mindfulness and Skillful living. I was a little hesitant when I signed up for it because I didn't exactly know what I was getting into. I mean, the title, it's a little vague, but it's also, there's a lot of power to it. And so I decided, what the heck, let's figure out how to live mindfully and skillfully. And so I went through her semester and she taught us how to practice mindfulness. She liked to say, in the morning we wake up, we brush our teeth, clean up our mouths, wash our face, but we don't cleanse our minds. We don't enter the day with a clear, grounded type of focus, and it makes us reactive when certain situations pop up throughout the day, rather than being able to assess it for what it is in a calm manner and respond. And so various exercises all throughout that semester where we looked at our values, our ethics, how to practice. We did the practice 10 minutes before, at the beginning of every class, and I didn't realize how powerful it was until I moved away and came to chiropractic college. And so now I have come back to Mānoa, and I'm going to sit down with Dr. Lei and we're going to talk about the power behind it and try to find out a little more about the practice and really just solidify mindfulness and skillful living in my mind, but also to show you that this is out there and this is something that you can readily practice to elevate your consciousness and learn to live mindfully and skillfully. So without further ado, we have Dr. Lei. Enjoy. We have Dr. Lei here, one of the mindfulness and skillful living teachers. Dr. Lei, can you tell us a little more about your mindfulness and skillful living class?
Sure. So I developed this course about, I don't know, 4 years ago, because I realized that, in academia and in education, we are charged with educating the next generation. And of course, there are many courses on the university campus that provides the technical skills or the pragmatic skills, like how do you then go on in your life to make a living and earn a living, and those are very important skills. But I think what is really missing are the skills that, how do you live your life in every day? How do you interact with another person? And most importantly, how do you know who you are? Right? So where do we learn about these skills to have that deep inquiry and curiosity that can explore the dimension of your mind, your heart, and why do you make these decisions in your life that seem like it's automatic, but they're not automatic, because it's a long history of habits that we've acquired and long history of coping skills. Right? So in my department as Human Development and Family Studies, we explore sort of all the contextual factors and the process of the minute you're born to when you're on your deathbed. But I don't want to wait for the student to be later in life to have that review of why did I make those choices.
Right.
So this course my intention was to develop a course that really helps students have the skill to live more wisely, right? And consistent with the Hawaiian values of aloha. We can't force somebody to be aloha or to act aloha, but we can give them some tools to shine the light of what is skillful and what's not skillful. What's pono, what's not pono, right? What's kind and what's not kind. Otherwise, we're just creatures of habit. We are creatures of habit, right? Why do you choose to eat that malasada or the second malasada?
Right.
What's driving your desire, right? What's driving why you said something that's so unkind? Because you felt disrespected? But how is it that you felt disrespected? Right? right? Because we tend to blame other people for how we are reacting. So, and for me, students and anyone should have the skills, regardless of where you are in your life. But I happen to be in a university, so we're better than, offer a course to help students have that skill to do intense self-reflection. Right? There's a whole movement in education called contemplative education, which is in addition to skills of technical skills, like chemistry, biology, oceanography, right? But you also need what I call emancipatory skills.
Emancipatory skills.
What are emancipatory skills? Right? How do we live freely? What do you mean by freely? Are you driven by your habits and your desires? Right? And your biology? And where is choice then? Are you living in a way that creates peace and freedom and happiness?
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
That's really my intention. So if I were to ask you, Brandon, since you are now in the Bay Area, right, do you notice the habit energy of people who live in the Bay Area versus the habit energy of Hawaii?
I do.
So what is the difference between the two?
So my perspective on the two. I've grown up in Hawaii my whole life, from a little boy all the way to going through undergrad, and then I went away for graduate school. And so I really got to know this place, what we call home, Hawaii, very well. And a lot of people, they have this kindness, generosity to them. They really care about their neighbors, their actions, and the repercussions to those actions. We live in a place where we value aloha, showing love and kindness to one another, whether it's through just smiling at someone when you're walking by, saying hello, aloha, how are you, and not expecting anything back, but just giving love.
Right.
And so when I have gone to the mainland, as in the Bay Area, California, there's a lot of love there, and there's a lot of aloha, but it's not as potent as what I feel when I'm here. And so some people I've seen are kind of caught up in the rat race. They're caught up in this me, what do I need, how do I get ahead? And they forget about their fellow brother or sister just on the street, and they don't show them the love that us humans, we need. Our biology craves love, acceptance, and just openness. And it put me in a somewhat stressful situation when I moved over there, because it was my first time living anywhere other than Hawaii, and it's a new environment and different values, different kinds of people, different mentalities, and even different ways of talking. Everywhere I go, they're like, what? Where are you from? Oh, Hawaii. Where? Hawaii? Where? Hawaii? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I know that island. Yeah, Waikiki. Yep, Waikiki. And so it was a period where I really had to adapt. And what I found myself really practicing a lot was what you taught me in your class. The mindfulness, the learning when certain feelings are arising when I'm interacting with this new environment, these new people, understanding how I'm feeling and how to respond in the most positive, most type of way where I show aloha. And some days I'm not perfect. That reptilian mind, that ego-driven mind, sometimes it gets in the way. And I think that's natural for us. Yeah. But I know when I live like that, I'm not living pono. I'm not being my best version of myself. And I try to check myself. And using mindfulness and what you've taught me, I try to move forward in my day with aloha and trying to handle any situation as mindful and as aligned to my values and ethics as possible.
Yes, right. And it's just like a muscle, right? Because you work out, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
You work out. So when you work out, you get more physically fit, you're building muscle, and it requires that resistance to build muscle.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're living in a context where there are lots of potential resistance allows you to practice that mindfulness muscle.
Yeah.
And so the more that you exercise that mindfulness muscle of awareness and attention and acceptance, you're strengthening that muscle capacity, that mindfulness capacity, so that when somebody else throws you something, throws you a bomb, right?
Yeah.
Or say something or say something unkind, then what do? You're able to accept it. Well, not accept it in a way that's like, I recognize it, right? And rather than reacting to it, you're able to respond to the situation. And you're able to respond because what's happening? You checking in with yourself, noticing what the body's feeling, right? As we discuss in class, my heart's getting tight, I'm getting turning in my stomach, my chest.
Breathing is getting shallow.
Yeah, right? So you're checking in, then you're noticing what thoughts is happening, what thoughts are arising, you're feeling discomforted.
Yeah.
And then you choose the next word that's going to come out of your mouth, or what you're going to do that are in alignment with your values, right? Or if you do what the reptile wants, which is to do what?
It's to defend myself.
Right.
And make a stand.
Make a stand, right?
You know nothing about me, man.
Right, and that creates disconnection.
Yeah.
So let's say you care about this person, but this person really irritating you right now because they're saying something because they don't understand you. Because do we come into this world with a manual? You know, when we buy stuff, the toaster, it has a manual, how to operate a toaster. We buy a microwave, how to operate a microwave, right?
True.
You have a recipe, how do you make Portuguese bean soup or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't have your manual. Is there a Brandon manual? What makes Brandon upset? What makes Brandon happy? What is irritating? I have no idea, really. Right? So since I don't have your manual, I might respond to the way that if you're unkind to me, based on the way I do to protect myself, which then feed each other. This negativity keeps like a spiral loop. So when I'm able to practice mindfulness, and when you're able to practice mindfulness, we're able to okay, I don't know. Right? The humility comes in. Ha ha, aha. Or the Hawaiian, the aloha, right? The humility comes in to say, you know what? I really don't understand how you tick. And I actually don't even understand how I operate, because sometimes I don't know until the circumstances arise.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm just going to give this a pause. I'm going to check in with myself, notice what I'm thinking and feeling, what my body's doing. Right? And if my reptile's really activating right now because it wants to protect and defend myself, then not the right time to say anything to Brandon. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, Brandon, I'm feeling really irritated right now. I'm feeling this is happening. Please allow me to take a pause. Right?
And it seems like that's such a effective way to communicate, because as we were discussing before, communication is everything.
Yes.
And there's an art to it. If we can be mindful of what we're feeling and knowing what we need in that present time, we can communicate more effectively and be heard when the reptilian brain, that sympathetic response, lowers and you become even-keeled, and now I'm ready to listen to you.
Yes.
But you highlighted something very interesting where you talked about a manual for yourself and maybe your manual.
Right.
It gets me thinking, how do we write this manual? How do we know what the manual is to self-govern ourselves? And I believe through your teaching with mindfulness, the practice, the ethics and the values, and identifying those keys to yourself, your core,
Yes.
you can create the architecture of that manual, and being able to give the manual to another person so they know what you need.
And somewhat, because the manual, it's not like a dead document.
Right.
It's a living document. So
Right.
so your values actually can shift over time, right? Maybe when you're 20, your achievement value is very strong. I want to finish my degree, I got to accomplish, right? So you're high on your achievement, right now. But maybe when you're in hopefully when you 40, 50, right? Your generativity values increases. What does that mean? That you care more for making sure the next generation has high well-being.
Yeah.
Right? So you develop already so it can shift, right? But in this moment, you're at least aware, where is my guiding principle? Right? And let's say one of your guiding principles is aloha.
Yeah.
Right? If that's your guiding principle on how you engage in the world, then mindfulness allows you to be aware. Aha is what I'm about to do is that consistent with aloha. Right? Because if you're upset and you're irritated and you're making judgment, it's probably not consistent with aloha.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
But when you have mindfulness, you're aware that's what's happening, and it's okay, because that's the way our mind works. Right? It's not always aloha. Because if you were aloha all the time, you right? What? It's really hard. That's part of life, right? But that's our goal. So you've got this compass, like aloha, right? And so sometimes when you're off the compass, right, and it's not aloha, then you realize, okay, I got to recalibrate my compass to go in this direction.
And the mindfulness is like the check that you need to reorientate and be like, all right, aloha's due north. I was waiting.
Right.
Bring it back north, right?
Yes, right, because you're aware.
Yeah.
Because much of what we do, we're so unaware, because our habits are so collective, right? We have collective and individual personal habit energy. And it drives us. And most of the two main common habit energies we have is approach and avoidance. Usually approaching toward pleasure and avoiding pain and displeasure. And we're constantly living in the state. What gives me more pleasure? How can I avoid pain? Right? So we're constantly, and that's part of the reptile design, drives us to do this.
Yeah.
But sometimes what gives us pleasure is actually not very good for us. Right? And some things that we should avoid, like doing the hard work to study an exam, or whatever you need to do, like doing the weeds, pulling the weeds, examining all the shortcomings or all the limitations or all the negative thinking we have. That's hard work.
Yeah.
Right?
Takes a lot of effort.
Takes a lot of effort, right? To do that self-reflection. Just like, okay, how was it that I contribute to this misunderstanding? Right? How did I contribute to this conflict with this person that I really care for or not care for? Right? Because we always play a role, and there's some way in our misperception, potentially, or perception, which has a lot of misperception, and why we think it's that person's fault.
Right.
Right? So the hard work is like, wait a minute, let me take a pause here. How have I contribute to that person having that perception that I didn't pull my weight?
Instead of just putting it on the other person.
Completely.
That's just the way they are.
They're just crazy.
They're crazy. Yeah.
Right.
We can't deal with them.
Yes, because that's an easy way.
Right.
Right? That's an easy way. Because the manual, it's like, can you imagine? Sometimes I look at these manuals and it's complicated.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, how about a human manual? Oh, it's
even more complicated.
Very complicated, right?
Complex creatures.
Complex, right?
Yeah.
You don't know, like, right now, in this moment, how you are sitting here, the complexity of how you look, the way you engage, right? It's hugely complex, right? And so I'm just grabbing one tiny piece of that information, right? And interpreting that. But I don't know.
Right.
I really don't know why right now you're so angry with me. I think I know.
But I'm not.
right.
Right, I get the example, yeah.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
We don't know. That's why we have to have that humility.
Right.
Because I don't know your manual.
Right.
Right?
And that's where the aloha is, where I don't know what you're going through, what's on your mind, but I show you love and I give you the opportunity to.
Yes. Because if you look at aloha, right, the breakdown of the word aloha, which I have on my board right now, ha'a is humility. And ahunui, the last A of aloha, is patient. Do I have the patience not to have the right to want this to be resolved right now?
Yeah.
Right? Do I have the patience? Akahi, that's the first A, which is kindness.
Yeah.
Right? And then lokahi, which means unity. We are in this together. Your suffering is my suffering.
Yeah.
Your happiness is my happiness. Right? It's not you're happy, you're crazy, and I'm happy. I'm just gonna get away from you. Right? That's temporarily convenient because I don't have the capacity right now to be able to contain and hold your suffering. But if I did have the capacity to hold your suffering, I would totally embrace you. Right? So then we can transform. Because we're not independent of each other.
Yeah.
Right? But then, that's the unity. knowing that right now I'm not able to completely embrace you and hold you in my space, but so can you allow me to take time, right? Have the patient, and then one day, because I still know in the back of my mind that you're connected to me, right? And I will come with you with kindness, humility, right?
Yeah.
Agreeableness, olu olu, right? The aloha has those values and virtues, and that's perhaps that's why you're saying people in Hawaii, they don't even realize necessarily that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's
right?
You know, when you're breaking down aloha right now, it made me think of the difference between Hawaii and the mainland. So here in Hawaii, it's a small island. You know, like every time we go out just to go to the mall, maybe to go pick up something from Long's, you're gonna run into someone you know.
Yeah.
Like more times out of none, you know? Like it's such a small island, and Lokahi, we're all in this together. This small pool that we have here on these islands, it forces us to have to show aloha because we're gonna see you again. It's like you can't run from it. Your negative interaction that you have, or the negative way, if you were to deal with a situation, it's gonna come back. We're gonna see each other again, and if we want to live a pono life, a very righteous life, we need to address that rather than just taking the easy route out. We got to do the hard work, and so that we can live righteously. But the thing on the mainland is, it's interesting because you're not necessarily going to see that person ever again. And so it's very cutthroat, dog-eat-dog world, and it's like, why should I show them aloha? They don't show me aloha. Forget them. Cut me off, I'll cut the next guy off, and it perpetuates itself. And that's the thing that is very eye-opening to myself when I spent time over there at chiropractic college versus my time here, and I really don't like that. You know, as a person from Hawaii, I want to be able to perpetuate the culture and show aloha and let people know around the world who it is, Hawaii, what Hawaii is, what we stand for, and what we're about, you know. And if I can remember to show aloha, value that, and be mindful on when I'm not showing aloha, that's where the power is. And I think a lot of positivity will come from that practice alone.
That's beautiful, right? So you're like the ambassador of aloha.
In a way.
You should be, right?
Yeah.
Because you grew up in this soil.
Yeah.
Right? The soil has conditioned you to have aloha in your mindset. And so when you're not aloha, you know right away.
Yeah.
Right? When you're not pono, you're not know right away.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was like my, I grew up in Hawaii with a lot of Hawaiian values, and aloha and pono, those are the ones that always keep coming back to me. And pono is just, am I living pono? Is it pono right now? I don't know. I like, when I have this discontent, I like to think that I'm not living pono.
Yes, that's your body's telling you, your mind's telling you something's not right.
Yes.
Listen to it.
Yes.
Right? And if you have the mindfulness, you're aware what is not going on.
Yeah. And so when I check myself and I'm like, I'm not living pono, let's change this. Let's set my intention every day. Let's live healthier. Let's have better interactions. Let's give love, more love, less hate. And I start to feel better.
Yes.
And that's pono. And that's when I know I'm on the right track.
Yes.
And so I think every kid that grows up here, spends time here, they learn about these values, and that's why you need mindfulness and skillful living, just to be able to check into that, to hone what you learned during your time on these beautiful islands, and just perpetuate the aloha, the love, and live ponoli.
Yeah, so mindfulness is just like the analogy, let's say, of a flashlight.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a flashlight, and it's like the flashlight, if you have a weak flashlight and you shine the light on your action and your thought, you don't have strong mindfulness, like because there's a weak flashlight, then you don't see very clearly. Yeah, there's just some fuzziness. yeah, that doesn't look right. Yeah, I'm angry or I'm sad or I'm having a judgment, but it's kind of a weak kind of an acknowledgement or awareness.
Yeah.
But if you develop that mindfulness skill strongly, then it's like a powerful flashlight. Oh, there is anger. I see you.
Can't
right?
hide. I see you right there.
Right?
You're trying to hide, but I still see you.
Exactly, right? And then you see the connections. Oh, this relates to a fear that I have, that I'm being rejected. And you don't acknowledge me. You're excluding me, right? So as you have more awareness, you begin to shine the lights on all those seeds that we have in our mind.
Yeah.
But it's just like a flashlight. That's why you need the virtues and the values, like aloha.
Yeah.
That says, okay, anger, not consistent with kindness or kind. Not consistent with aunui, patient. And if you see that, what do? Let it go.
Yeah.
Alright? Let it go.
Let it go.
Right?
And recalibrate.
And recalibrate.
And move forward.
Right. Because like with taro leaves,
yeah.
Right, the kalu, why is it that when it rains, you see it collect any water?
Maybe right around the top.
Maybe at the top, a little dot, right?
Yeah.
But if it rains a lot.
Oh, it's
It's
just gonna roll right off.
Right?
Yeah.
So like if you're experiencing a lot of stress and people yelling and screaming at you, if you become like that kalu leaf, what's happening? Letting go. Right?
Reflecting.
Right? You're letting it go.
Wow.
You have the metaphor in nature right here.
Yeah.
Right? It always is showing you how to do it.
Right.
Just let it go.
Yeah, it's nature is a beautiful analogy for a lot of what we try to look at in terms of what creates human health, and it comes back to before we started this recording, we were talking about your garden of your thoughts. You have the opportunity to either let positive plants, ideas, beliefs grow in your mind, or you have the opportunity to let the weeds grow. Now, the hard part is digging up the weeds and giving the opportunity for the positive plants, the positive beliefs, the values to sprout and grow and flourish. Yes. And so that's the beauty behind mindfulness. You are cultivating the positive plants to grow
because
and
you're
create
aware.
a beautiful garden.
Yes, because you're aware which seed's popping up in your mind.
Yeah.
Right? If it's more kindness, more generosity, more humility, nurture it. Right? But if the negative seeds are popping up, more vengeance, judgment, okay, it's okay. You see it, and then let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Not a problem.
So, got a question. So you have a person, hypothetically speaking, they're in a rut, and they're watering their negative seeds a lot.
Yes.
How can we get that person to get out of that spot and elevate themselves?
Okay. Right. So there are many conditions, right? There are many conditions that we don't understand why that person is in this situation with this mindset right now.
Yes.
Just like a rainbow. How does the rainbow happen? Many conditions and many factors, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what is our responsibility to anyone, be it a person in a rut or somebody being angry at us or having judgment about us? What's our responsibility?
Show them love.
Right? Just our responsibility is to always be aloha.
Yeah.
To be kind, to send loving kindness thought. Right? And be aloha ourselves. Embody aloha. Because we infect each other. Just like when we get sick and germs are being spread, why we infect each other, right? Negativity is very infectious.
Yeah.
So is positivity. So is love.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just because we haven't built up the reservoir of our kindness so that we can really wash that person, right? If we have such a big reservoir, we can really wash that person in kindness, and they will feel it.
And that's washing and watering their positive
seeds, right? Because they have it. But if you're constantly watering your positive seed in your presence, right? When they're in your presence, they begin to activate their own positive seed.
Wow.
And because we resonate with each other, just like germs, right? If I'm sick, I might pass on my germs to you.
Right.
So if I'm always joyful and kind, the seed of kindness and generosity in you will also be watered. That's why we're interdependent. We're responsible for each other. but we're responsible for knowing where our mind is. Because I can't read your mind,
Right.
but I can certainly be aware of what my mind is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so if I'm aware that my mind is on kindness, I'm going to amplify that in your present.
Yeah.
Right? So, because I'm hoping, not that I'm expecting, because we can't expect people to change,
Yeah.
but if I'm aware that I'm in this mind state, I'm going to amplify that. So maybe that would activate your kindness seed. Because right now, the habit energy of that person, for whatever reason, it's strong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's like self-judgment. Because we're in the United States, we're primal when it comes to judging ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
We love to judge ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
how well we're not, how compared to somebody else, how we're not making, we're not meeting the standards and we're not
Right.
meeting our own standards. That is so unkind. That's very unkind, right?
Unkind to ourselves.
To ourselves.
Yes.
Right? That's harsh,
Mm-hmm.
right? But why is that? Because our society right now, it's watering that seed in us. Social media. Why is it that the Facebook works so well, or the likes and whatever? Because I don't have any social media, so like, how does it work?
Yeah.
Because it's constantly comparing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's promoting this idea that here I am, here you are,
Yeah.
and look, you're having all fun because you're posting all these wonderful things that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and my life sucks
Right.
because apparently it's not that great compared to what you're posting online,
Right.
right? So then you're constantly comparing, which is watering what seed? Self-judgment.
Yeah. And it's
Envy
funny
seed.
because it's not even accurate. What you're seeing online is the highlight reel that person decides to post.
Yeah. So
It doesn't show them the struggles, the tribulations that they're going through.
right.
And so what you're comparing yourself to is something not even real.
Yeah.
How are you gonna match that when it's not even actually real?
Right. Right. So that person's in a rut. He feels like in a rut. He's like, oh my God, my life is horrible.
Yeah.
Look at all these other cool things my friends are doing,
Yeah.
and I'm like being stupid here, doing nothing.
Yeah.
How does that person feel? It's watering that self-judgment seed,
Yeah. Wow.
right?
That's
Not helpful.
that's crazy.
Yes.
Hmm.
So we need to be attentive to water each other positive seed, but don't consume all that media, like you said, because
Yeah.
you're saying that reality, that's not even real. So,
Yeah.
but why do we keep eating this? Why do we keep consuming these ideas and these thoughts and these self-comparison?
Right.
And it becomes a habit. Can't help it. Keep scrolling, right?
Right.
Because it's so addictive.
Yeah, it becomes clickbait and just then you're not mindful of what you're consuming. And that's another thing where your practice has taught me to be mindful about what I consume in terms of what I watch, what I view, who I subject myself to be around. It's like everything you have an option of what you're going to take in and integrate into yourself. If you're not mindful about it, you take in whatever society decides to feed you.
Exactly.
And that's where the marketing behind all these like multi-billion-dollar companies, that's where they get you. Because
Yeah.
they know human behavior and they play it to their favor.
Right. They play to that reptile and the limbic system.
Yeah.
Yes, right? Yeah, we consume all this
Yeah.
unbeknownst to ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we wonder, why am I so miserable and unhappy?
Wow, where to begin?
Right. So it goes back to what this cup says. What does it say?
Aloha, always.
I think that's good.
That's perfect, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Thao of University of Hawaii. If you're a student here at UH, I strongly recommend that you take her class. It was definitely one of the highlights of my time here at UH Mānoa, and I don't think you'll have any regrets taking it as well.
And what-